Welcome to Cardboard Box Games. I'm Adam.
And I'm Adam. This week, we're answering the question,
Is Shadow overpowered?
and we're also doing some other fun stuff too. Let's get started. So kicking it off, Adam, we have changed our mind on a specific card. And this actually was brought to our attention from folks on YouTube and Reddit, which was really awesome. The card is Collector Worm. So what did we miss on that card?
We missed its shield power.
And do you remember how much shield it
was 5.
Some
Yeah.
armor.
So we thought it was horrible because we didn't look at the shield. We figured it had no shield since it's a Mars creature. And we only looked at its power level and it's only a 2. And its ability is if it kills a creature, you can archive that creature into your artifact.
Your archives.
Your archives, I mean.
And it doesn't even have to kill it. It just needs to fight
It just needs to fight it? Oh.
Yep. So, if Collector Worm attacks and fights, let's just say it's fighting a 5-power creature. It's going to just archive that creature
Yeah.
into your archives. So you can just start filling your archives with your enemy's creatures. Like, actually, this card is going to be
Pretty
It's going to be
powerful.
awesome to play
Yeah.
with. I changed my vote from a thumbs down to a thumbs up specifically because
Me too.
5 armor. And when I was reading the cards off, and even when I looked at it well before the video we did, I just did not notice the armor on that card. That was a huge miss on our end because that is what makes that card amazing, I think.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is a ridiculous amount of armor.
It is really ridiculous.
It's not going to get killed by Sweeper. It's just unbelievable. 3 damage to everything isn't going to phase this card anyway. Alright, so before we jump into our main topic, we're going to do one more thing, and we're going to open
A deck.
a deck. And you can kind of see behind us here, we've got quite a few KeyForge decks on both sides. We've got the starter set. For those of you that can't see, I don't even know how many decks we're up to, but it's a significant amount back there.
Yeah.
We should do a count at some point. But we're going to add a deck to that. Alright, so the first thing that I will see is it's the type of deck that I like. I'm super excited. It's a Shadow, Brobnar, and Disc deck.
That's cool.
And I love Shadow and Disc combinations. I do feel like they're extremely powerful.
Do you like Probnar too with those two?
I like Brobnar as long as it has really heavy creatures. Really, really heavy creatures. So the name of this deck is Ludwig S. Interbond the Kind. So that's kind of cool. Now, in Shadows, the cards that I'm always looking for are Bait and Switch and Too Much to Protect, which is a card that I really like. So let's see here. We do have a Bait and Switch. We have an Imperial Trader. We have a Nerve Blast. And we have a Seeker Needle and a Bad Penny. So that's already cool. There's a card in here. I don't know what it actually does. It's, so I'm going to crack open all the way open here. So I can read this card off. So how many creatures do you think we need in Brobnar to really make it good?
About a good 5, 6.
At least half of them, right? So the card I don't know, or if I do know, 2 Silvertooths. So Silvertooth is that shadow
Creature that when you play it, it's already ready.
Yep, 2 power Silvertooth enters. I really like that card. 2 Shadow Selves, which is...
Wow.
You know, I've got mixed feelings about Shadow Self.
Me too. Like, they could be good and they could be not good. And it depends what creatures you have you want to protect.
Oh, I have played with this card. Depino Spymaster. It's the 1 power elusive creature that has an Omni ability, and it just lets you choose a friendly creature, and you may use that creature this turn.
Really?
So this guy just lets you use a creature every turn. I'm actually really excited about this deck already. Bad Penny with Seeker Needle. I always love that combination.
Yeah.
I'm going to Reap with Bad Penny. I'm going to use the action on Seeker Needle. Bad Penny's coming back to my hand. I'm going to gain an Amber. So they have Nerve Blast, Steal 1. If you do, deal 2 damage to a creature. Imperial Trader. This is a card that I don't like.
You don't like?
it gives you 1 amber, which is good, and it lets you look at your opponent's hand and purge a Sanctum card. But that's only true in like maybe a third of your games, maybe. But it does have bait and switch. So honestly, not a lot of controlling things. Dusk Runner is a upgrade that lets you give a creature Reap, steal 1, and you have bait and switch, and you have Nerve Blast. Everything else is kind of just normal stuff, right?
I kind of like how you can look in the opponent's hand, even if it doesn't do that much. At least you know what's in their hand.
Yeah, that's a good point, because then you know how to plan your turn the next time around. So take advantage of that. We have Tentactus in Dis, which is a 5-power. I actually really love this card. It's the 5-power Dis creature that your opponent must pay you 1 amber in order to use an artifact.
Oh, that's a pretty cool
This
one.
card, every time like my opponent uses an artifact, I'm like, oh, you gotta pay me an amber to do that. And they're always like, oh, okay, hold on a second. It's amazing. Succubus is always good. Makes them draw 1 less card. There are 2 Charettes, which are capture 3 amber. Dust Imp is always, okay. He dies, he gives you 2 amber. Shuffle your hand and discard pile into your deck with an artifact. So this is a rare artifact.
Rare artifact.
Shuffle your hand and discard pile into your deck. So you call Dis, you dump everything you've got, you use this action.
What is that card called?
It's called Screaming Cave.
Screaming Cave.
And you tap this, and you basically shuffle everything in, and at the end of your turn you would draw 6 fresh cards again. Kind of interesting.
I think that's a
I
pretty cool
don't know
card.
if it's strong or not. I gotta figure it out. There is that Life Ward, 1 amber artifact that you sacrifice that your opponents can't play creatures on their next turn. Oh, Annihilation Ritual, which actually really interesting. It's the artifact that gives you an amber, but anytime a creature would enter discard pile from play,
It's purged.
it's purged. Keyhammer, make sure opponent unforge a key, and then they gain 6 amber.
But be careful, if you do it and they haven't forged a key, they gain 6 amber.
They still get the 6 amber,
Yeah.
whether or not. That's super important to remember. So, like, if you wild Wormhold into Keyhammer, they get 6 amber. It's bad, by the way. Fear, return an enemy creature to its hand. We have 2 of those. And then we have a Control the Weak action. 1 amber. Choose a house on your opponent's identity card. Your opponent must choose that house as their active house on their next turn. Okay, so Brabnar is, I think, the most important thing to look at to really make this deck come together, because if you can put together a strong board presence along with Shadow and Dis, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 creatures.
5 creatures.
Not super excited about that, but we do have, which is kind of cool, we have 2 Headhunters, which is you fight, you gain 1. We have the 8-power Troll. When he reaps, he heals 3. This is a little bit of anti-synergy. You play Earth Shaker, which is a 7-power creature, and you destroy each creature with power 3 or lower.
Oh.
Not really ideal in
Since
a
you have
Shadow
Shadow, yeah.
or a Dis deck. And if you remember, even like Charette, like that's a bit of anti-synergy there. Bumpsy just makes your opponent lose 1 amber, 5-power Brabnar creature. We have Mighty Javelin, the artifact you sacrifice to deal 4 damage to a creature. See, this is where more anti-synergy happens. Because you only have 5 Brabnar creatures, in this action, when you play it, for the remainder of your turn, gain 1 amber each time a friendly creature fights.
Oh. Yeah, that's not that good.
You're lucky to get, what, 2? 3?
3,
Maybe 3? These are the cards I know you like. So Tremor.
Oh, yeah.
It's an action where you...
Stun a creature and its neighbors.
Yep. For the remainder of the turn, gain 1 amber each time an enemy creature is destroyed. This is Loot the Bodies. This could be cool with Earthshaker, where you play this if they have a lot of small creatures. Like, you know that you're positioning the board so that you don't play small creatures. You could potentially get like a 3 amber, maybe more boost there. This actually is really good. Okay, so maybe I'm changing my mind. So with Follow the Leader,
Oh,
For the remainder of your turn, each friendly creature may fight.
that's pretty cool.
So you aren't limited with Brobnar now for some of those cards. You can actually
Fight with Shadow and Dis.
And here's another one that actually adds to that, which is Anger. 1 amber for playing it. Ready and fight with a friendly creature. I actually sort of like this deck. We'll have to try it out. I think there's some ways that you have to play this deck to do good. Like, not even to do good, but to not harm your own deck. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this deck?
I have to agree. I mean, the Shadow and Dis part seems pretty cool, but not that controlling as I would
really
like it
not.
to be. But then the Brobnar, I expected more creatures. I think that could be a liability having less Brobnar creatures, but their action cards seem pretty cool.
One thing I do want to say is, like, let me find the actual. There's one elusive guy. There's a couple elusive guys.
Okay.
So, elusive, the first time this creature is attacked each turn, no damage is dealt. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the 2 Shadow Selves that we have in there, they can still attack. They don't do damage, though. So I was thinking about this the other day, like, especially with a deck like this that has 2 Shadow Selves. And the Brobnar cards that let you attack.
So are you saying that you can ping off the elusive of all the creatures with the Shadow Self?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Which
I think is
cool.
super important to remember when you're playing a deck like this. Because it doesn't say that the creature has to be dealt combat damage. Mm-hmm. It says when it is attacked. And you can attack without dealing damage.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to look into, but I haven't figured out yet, is there's that creature that lets you attack into a creature. But before you attack, before you fight you choose another creature to do the damage. That one, I'm still a little mixed on the rules, but from what I could find online in the post, it's actually attacking the first creature. So the damage would actually go to the second creature, even if it has elusive. So so basically, like, you can attack. Say you attack an elusive creature that pops its elusive.
Yeah.
Does no damage.
But then the damage.
But the damage still happens to the second creature that you chose.
I see.
Like, if you really think about those things, it can actually become, in my opinion, super, super cool. Like, super next level for how you play the game. Although it might confuse some people. All right. Ready for our main topic?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you some questions. There are not many decks, so a small number of decks that are power level 3 right now. Okay? Mm-hmm. And there are a lot more that are power level 2 and even more that are power level 1. So when we started asking ourselves the question, is Shadow overpowered? My feeling right now is that it is the strongest house. Buddy, how do you feel?
I have to agree, like, all its cards is, like, controlling. It's super hard to kill their creatures all the time. And the creatures have, like, special abilities and special actions all the time that can improve your gameplay more. Like Silvertooth, you play it and then you can already reap with it or fight with it right away. And there's other cards like that too, where it just says, like, elusive and you can do its action to steal amber from people. I just feel like it's really powerful.
And I feel like stealing is the most powerful effect.
Yes.
I mean, it's got to be, right? It's like you're literally, for every amber you steal, it's a 2 net. It changes the game by a net 2. You're gaining 1, they're losing 1. So basically, you're basically net 2ing them every time, right? Because they're going down 1, you're going up 1. So the value of that is 2. So sometimes bait and switch where it will steal 4 amber. That's actually a net of like 8. Like, it is just ridiculously powerful. So my feeling is Shadow is the strongest house. My thinking going into this weekend is I have to play a Shadow deck to compete. But as we started digging, I wanted to find out is, like, by the numbers, is Shadow really the most powerful house? And I also want to talk about, are there ways to combat it? And talk about how the last strategy that we suggested may or may not work in certain situations. So the first thing is, I wanted to go to, we have this awesome thing called the Master Vault. So we can look at
yeah.
every deck. There are 3 power level 3 decks. That's it. No power
Only
level
3?
Only 3. This is as of yesterday, so this could have changed.
Yeah.
How many of those? And first off, each of those decks only have a single loss when I checked.
1 loss.
So one of them's 15-1. So 15 wins and 1 loss.
1?
One of them's 14-1. I take that back. I have this wrong. So 2 of them have only 1 loss.
Okay.
One of them is 17-9. So this one's played a lot more. So probably tried playing it after they got to rank power 3 and probably have lost some change now. How many of those have shadows?
I'm guessing 0.
0. All of them.
All of them? Oh, wow.
And you want to tell you something else? All of them also have logos.
Really?
So it doesn't tell us too much. The third house is different for each one of them. So one of them has Sanctum, one of them has Dees, and one of them has Untamed.
Oh.
So there is no Brobnar in the...
Interesting.
All right. So what... Do you think the SAS rating on these decks is super high? To be in power level 3?
I mean...
Naturally, you would think so, right?
Yeah, but I feel like SAS rating is not really important. It just means how good your cards are, and then how their combinations are.
Yeah, so it's not like the only factor.
Yeah.
So in the top 3 decks, the lowest SAS rating is a 78.
78. Wow.
So I was like, you know what? I have decks. You have decks. We have decks in that
higher.
range. So
Also, yeah.
the highest was an 88. And this was the
88.
Beast Logos and Shadows deck, the 17-9 record. The other one was an 86 with Logo, Shadow, and Untamed.
I expected them higher.
I expected them in the 90s.
Yeah.
I 78 is not what I expected at all.
Like, we have decks higher than a 78.
We do, which shows me that who you're playing and what you're playing matters a lot. And how you're playing it.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I would love to see some of these folks play their deck very much with that many chains and stuff that they have on it. So for power level 2 decks, how many total decks do you think there are?
Total? So a lot of them lost for power level 1, I'm guessing.
So power level 1's definitely got the most.
Yeah. So
With
for
3 in power
2,
level 3.
I'm guessing there's about 20-ish people.
It's actually more than that. It's 81.
81?
81 power level 2 decks.
Wow.
Our goal is to get our deck up there, by the way, this weekend. So the first thing I wanted to do is, like, let's put together the order that the houses are represented in power level 2. Okay? And this is as of yesterday. So number 1, Shadows. 66 of those decks have Shadows.
66?
So that's a huge majority of those decks.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? The power level 3 decks both had logos and shadows. How many of those
Have logos.
had logos and shadows? Only 26 did.
Only 26.
But I say only 26, but that is still
A lot.
like 30% of them or something. I didn't do the math exactly, but it's a significant amount.
Yeah.
And then I've always felt Shadow and Dees together was strong, so I wanted to check that one. And 37 of those have Shadows and Dees. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if you had to pick, so I've also got all the other houses in power level 2. Let's start with the weakest house. Which house do you think made the least representation in there?
Brobnar.
Brobnar.
Or Untamed.
Or Untamed.
One of those two.
It's actually Mars.
Mars.
By a significant amount. There were only 14 decks that Mars is represented in.
Wow.
In power level 2. And then right above that is Sanctum.
Sanctum.
So Sanctum has got 20 decks.
20 decks.
And above that is Brobnar. So that gets to be... And Brobnar has 24. And then above that is Untamed. They have 33.
33.
And then Logos is 39. And Dees is 47. So if we look at the order of houses, Mars is the weakest. This is purely based on numbers here.
Yeah.
And Shadows is the strongest by a significant amount. Poor Mars, right? 14.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking is, let's go to the bigger sample set of power level 1. There should be a lot of decks in power level 1.
Yeah.
And there were 2,467 power level 1 decks.
2,000? Wow.
How many of those decks, out of that number, do you think had shadows in it?
I'm guessing all the shadow decks actually moved on, but a lot of people I'm guessing could have
Because
lost
people have
the shadow.
Because you think about how many chain-bound events we've had in our neighborhood. This will be our first one Saturday.
True.
So people might have only had one tournament so far.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
So I'm guessing over half of it.
Yep. 1,561 of them. So, well over half. Number 2, 1,119 are D's. So we're talking a 400 and some difference in shadows in this.
That's a pretty big difference.
And Logos is 1,096. Untamed is 1,078, so very close to Logos. Mars only had a 733.
Oh, I thought it was going to have a bigger number than everyone else and have it where they lost the most.
Well, if you think about percentage-wise, Mars has got a higher percentage in power level 1, which is good for them. Brobnar is 848. Sanctum is 966. So if you look at the order, it's almost identical to power level 2. The ranking, Mars is at the bottom, Shadows at the top. The order that they come in, Dees is number 2, is almost identical in power level 1 and power level 2.
That does seem pretty weird.
The top 4 is the same. The bottom 2 swap, but it's not by a significant amount. So like, you know, it's what that shows me, and really, I guess what it really shows me is that if you look at back to power level 2, there are 47 total Dees houses there, but 37 of those 47 have shadows in their deck. So it makes you kind of like think, that's the numbers.
Yeah.
So is shadows the strongest house?
I think it is, yeah.
And I think it is by a significant margin.
But my guess is that when the new cards come out, they're going to make the Fantasy Flight game's going to make cards that can be overpowered against Shadow.
Which would be amazing, by the way.
Yeah, because there's like deploy cards, alpha cards, and omega cards now.
Yep.
And there's some of those cards, I forgot what they did, but I remember that a couple of them could like mess with shadow cards a lot. From the cards we went over.
Yeah, I mean, like the collector worm that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Can just take out their elusive creatures. I wonder if they're going to have a card that like stops people from stealing. Like an artifact. Let's just imagine a world where there's an artifact.
Okay.
You pick Untamed.
Yeah.
You tap this Untamed artifact and it says, Amber cannot be stolen from you next turn.
That's
You know what I mean?
pretty awesome.
Like, you have to strategically choose when to play it,
yeah.
but at the same time, you have a little bit of way to protect yourself.
If they're going to do an artifact like that, or like any card like that, they're probably just going to make it for one turn.
That's what I think too. I don't think it. I mean, maybe they would make like
like maybe a sacrificial artifact, maybe.
or yeah, that might be it. One that sacrifices or
Yeah.
creature that's easy to kill. Maybe. I'd actually prefer it to be an artifact. Like, yeah, it's hard for me to actually say what the radiance is, but
And then also maybe you gain chains, depending on if it's an action card you're playing, you know? Because...
yeah, wouldn't it be cool if they made a card like, next turn, any amber your opponent steals from you, they gain a chain for each amber stolen that way.
oh, that sounds awesome.
So basically, they have to choose, like, cards like that.
Yeah.
And then I have to sit and think, I'm like, the strategy we talked about last time. So Adam and I have been doing a lot of practice for
The Archon tournament.
the Archon tournament. And of course, we're going to be both playing Shadow decks. And he actually beat me in our last best of 3 that we did, 2-1. And the reason for it is, so the way that I've been thinking about this is like, originally my idea was just put just enough pressure on your opponent.
Enough.
So just 6 amber, or whatever the cost of the key is currently. And I've done that, but I also made some play mistakes against you.
You did. You did.
Because I knew he had used his bait and switch.
I don't have bait and switch. You have bait and switch in your deck.
I have bait and switch. I thought you had a bait and switch too. You don't have a bait and switch.
I have too much to protect.
That's what got me. Okay. So my play mistake was, I knew you didn't have a bait and switch in your hand. So in my thinking at the time, I was like, you know what, now that I know, so if you know your Archon, your opponent has played their bait and switch or doesn't have it for a while, my thinking was I should just gain
a lot of
amber, because I know they can steal individual ones, but they're not going to be able to mass steal a bunch. But he played a card that doesn't get played against me very much, called Too Much to Protect. And
you steal all but 6 of your opponent's amber.
the first time he did it, you stole like 5. I don't remember. It was
I thought it was like 3, 4, around that.
3 or 4. It was a lot. It was enough to like really hurt me. But one of the times I had well over like 10 or 12 amber, and you stole down to 6 on that one too. And so then he played that. I'm like, okay, that card's out of his hand. And he had another one. So I cranked up another bunch of amber. And he had, so Too Much to Protect counteracts my strategy of putting on just enough pressure until you know that you should be safe because bait and switch is done. Because that's really the card that I wanted to play around the most.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure, like, when we were playing, whether or not you had that in your deck or not, because we were playing, and it makes it difficult for me to really know the right way to play against Shadows, because they have cards on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
They have cards that, if you bait and switch, like if you gain way more amber than your opponent, they can steal it.
Yeah.
They also have cards that can steal 1 amber, capture, especially if they're with these. But they have ways to just pick at 1, right?
Yeah.
So going to just 6, so painful, so painful. When you get to 6, they steal 1. You go to 6 again, they steal 1. Like, especially when they get those annoying creatures on the board that you can't get rid of, that are just fighting and stealing and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I was fighting you, my plan was to just have control over the board.
I kept control pretty well, though, most of the time.
You did, but I was trying to kill your creatures a lot with my creatures. Like, I had that one guy we were talking about earlier. You fight a person, but before fight, you choose a damage to go to somewhere else.
Which is a Deece creature, right?
Yes.
Deece.
I would go against a creature that he had that would deal damage to my guy on purpose. Because that another guy, if he reaps, he can do 2 damage off of my creature and
that was
2
so
damage
painful.
to another creature.
I
So
remember
then
that.
I kept using that combo to kill his creatures off and hammer him down. So
Yeah, honestly, your Deece actually did felt stronger. But anytime I would get it in control, Shadows would just wreck me again. So it was like at one of the games. So we ended up going 2-1. So I beat you once.
Yeah.
So actually, you beat me, then I beat you. We went to game 3, and you beat me. One of the games, you beat me without me even forging a key. And like,
Exactly, yeah.
I had gained a ton of amber that game, but you were just able to control it the entire time. So it made it super difficult. I don't know. I'm gonna have to keep thinking about it. I think knowing what's in your deck by looking at the Archon card and knowing the names of the cards is important. Because, like this one, for example, has bait and switch. So you immediately know that you can't get way more amber than your opponent. Because they're going to... Remember, they steal 4 amber. That's a net of 8.
Yeah.
You know, you've lost 4, they've gained 4. You add those together, that's an 8 amber switch.
That's pretty high.
That is ridiculous. Like, that is... I don't know if people understand, like... Even when they made that card, I don't know if they understood like how powerful those steal abilities actually are. So even the guy that you play and you steal 1, that's a net of 2.
Yeah.
So that is
The Urchin, I think.
that
his
is
name is.
gain an amber, take an amber away from your opponent. That is crazy strong. So definitely going to be playing Shadows. Really hoping the next set balances things out a bit more. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the cards as we get going. Is there anything else you've got on that note around Shadows? You're going to be playing Shadows too in the tournament, right?
I'm going to be playing my Ponderous Duelist deck that you saw us play earlier back in the videos. And I've been trying the Shadow Compat strategy that we came up with. I believe it works pretty good because I would try not to go over 6 Amber because I knew he had Shadow in his deck. But there's a couple times I did go over and he didn't mess with me. So
and there were times that I have messed with you too. Bait and switch got you pretty good one time.
So I don't know when the right time to do
You just
the
never
strategy.
know when people have the card.
Well, that's why the Imperial card that lets you see in the opponent's hand, could be very good for you.
That's a really good point.
It's in Shadow. I believe you gain Amber also for playing it. I feel like that could be really good because then if you have a bunch of Shadow cards in your hand, you can look at their hand first to see what you can do. So then you know what to play. Like, should you gain exactly 6? Should you go over it?
That's a good point.
Should you go way over it? You know, it all depends what they have in their hand and on the board, what you can do there.
Yeah, and I think just remembering some of the play strat, because thinking back to that first game that we played, I think I forged 2 keys, but you had 2 keys before I had any keys.
Yeah.
And it was like an uphill battle on the way back. And thinking back to that game, I definitely made play mistakes, which is why we practice. Mm-hmm. But I'll say earlier on when we played these 2 decks against each other, the deck that I've got was beating his deck.
It was, yeah.
And his strategy has turned it around now where the games feel very close and to the point where he actually beat my deck. And we both made mistakes. Like 100% we both made mistakes. So it's not... So the way you play does matter, I guess is what I'm saying.
It does.
It matters a lot.
It depends what house to choose. There's a couple turns. I had 2 cards of each house. And then I would look at my board and have nothing there from him destroying everything. I'm like, okay, which 2 cards would help me the most? Which 2 cards can help me actually get back into the game?
It's playing the current board state and thinking ahead too.
Thinking ahead, yes.
Because that's the most important thing. Because like you see all 6 cards in your hand. If you can only play 2, you have to in your head play through what it looks like to play those 2, and then the next 2, and then the next 2. Mm-hmm. And then as you get more cards, your strategy should be morphing to understand even more, right? So you're going to draw 2 more cards. It might be part of the houses you've already got. So you just constantly need to be thinking turns ahead. Anyway, that's all I've got for this week. How about you?
That's everything.
We'll let you know how the tournament goes. We're going to keep doing some practicing. But I think the answer to our question is, right now, Shadows
is overpowered.
Is the strongest house. And we're going to keep exploring ways to combat that. But for now, we're actually going to be playing Shadows. And we're both playing a Shadows and D's deck. Yeah. I just have Mars in mine, and you have Untamed in yours.
Yeah.
So, next set, please fix that so we can have a more balanced house layout.
Yeah.
Because Mars does feel weakest right now. And I think that's why, because I think his Untamed is stronger than my Mars as well, too. So when those... Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Till next time.
Keep gaming.
Keep gaming. Bye.